Hey, we're continuing our series, You Lost Me, tonight looking at the top 6 reasons why young people, the ages between 18 and 29, walk away from their faith and walk away from the church at some point between that age range. And last week, if you were here with us, we did some statistics and talked through the idea that students your age are the most churched age group demographically, and students slightly older than you, 18 to 29, are the least churched age group, and trying to put the disconnect between those two things. And so we're talking about 6 different things, 6 different reasons students give of why they left the church, and it's based off of a book called You Lost Me, where a guy, David Kinnaman, did a ton of research and compiled all these surveys and results to assess the 6 top reasons why students walk away. The first one we talked about last week is that students perceive that the church is shallow. And so the review of last week, and you can always catch a message that you've missed. We post them online every week. And so if you want to recap from that, you can go back and watch it. Tonight, we're going to talk about a really light topic. And so the idea is that students feel that the church is too repressive, that they're too controlling, particularly in their attitudes toward sexuality. So we're just going to talk about sex tonight. So it's going to be a nice light topic. So we want to answer some questions as a group tonight as we talk about sex. The question that kind of swirls around with students is the church behind the times in the teaching about sex? A lot of young people say that the church's ideas of sex are kind of backward, that they're not, that church needs to kind of evolve and it needs to actually change their ideas about sex and what's appropriate, whether sex is actually designed just for marriage between one man and one woman, or whether homosexuality and gay marriage should be affirmed. And young people are wrestling with issues of this. What about pornography? What about purity and the idea behind chastity and fidelity, being honorable to just one spouse? A lot of young people would say that those teachings are actually behind the time, even within the church. And so I want to answer that question. Is the church behind the times? And the other big question is, does the church restrict our freedom? Because this is one of the biggest reasons young people give for leaving the church is, the church takes away my freedom. And I don't like that, so I walk away. And so I want to show you a couple statistics tonight. Again, we have some note pages in front of you. You're also, of course, welcome to take notes on your phone. We don't check them. This isn't like a school where when I'm at the middle school and I have to walk around checking phones. I trust you guys, and if you are texting or playing a game on your phone, then clearly I wasn't entertaining enough anyway, and it's my own fault, so you can do that too. But if you want to use your phone to take notes, you're welcome, or on the papers in front of you. So, quick statistics. Between the ages of 18 and 29, 4 out of 5 evangelicals, that means people that are in the church, have had sex. Unmarried evangelicals, 4 out of 5, that's 80%, say that they've had sex before marriage. 40% would say that the church's teachings on sexuality are out of date. 21% say that they want more freedom in life and they can't find it in the church. 17% say, I've made mistakes and I feel judged because of them by the church. 12% say, I have to live a double life between my faith and real life. Like, I'm coming to youth group on Wednesday, and I'm having sex on Thursday, and I'm smoking pot on Friday, and then I'm coming back to church on Sunday. So they say, I'm living a double life between these two things. And 12% say that I am sexually active, and now I'm less interested in faith as a result. Remember, these are just the numbers of students admitting to this. The number actually could be a lot higher than this. These are some pretty alarming statistics, right? And so I want to backtrack a little bit before we really dive into the idea of freedom and talk about historically, what are the 2 big views on sexuality? This is historically in America, the idea behind sex and talking about sexuality. There's 2 big views. There's the traditionalist view and there's the individualist view. The traditionalist view, and I don't want you to confuse traditionalist with tradition. So traditions are, regarding sex, biblical traditions of sex are a really good thing. Traditions like chastity and waiting to honor your spouse with sex, fidelity, being loyal to one spouse. Those are traditions. Those are good things. And we can kind of dive into why in a little bit and talk more about that in hub groups. But traditionalism is an ideology that can basically be summed up as sex What sex? There's no sex around here. There's no sex at all. Don't say the S word in front of me. And churches historically have done this where they won't talk about sex. And this is the narrative of American culture for a long time. Previous generations were raised that sex is for the bedroom, and we do not talk about it. And so there's a show that some of you might have watched with your great-grandparents one day, and it was called I Love Lucy. Maybe just your parents, it's not that old. I'm just trying to make our hub leaders old. I Love Lucy was a show in the 1950s, okay? So right when I was born. And I Love Lucy, every time these main characters, Lucy and Ricky, they're depicted, this is their master bedroom in every scene in I Love Lucy. What do you notice? They're in twin beds. And when they've had twin beds the whole show, and then all of a sudden one day they have a child, and you're like, well, that's confusing. And so they spend their whole married life in twin beds. And so Hollywood at this time didn't even want a whiff of a suggestion that people might have sex, even in the context of marriage. And so the flip side of this is the individualist view. And the individualist view can best be summed up like this. Sex is about me. Sex is all about me, and it's what I want. That's the individual view. And this is the predominant view in our culture today, right? The most obvious case in point to individualist ideology on sex is pornography. When pornography, you don't even need another person to enjoy pornography. It's just you. It's all about you and your feeling. Sexting is another example of an individualist mindset regarding sexuality. The hookup culture, well, it's just a physical act. Friends with benefits. It's just sex. It's not a big deal. There's no emotional or spiritual connection to it. It's not a problem. And so, because of the age in which you've grown up with unprecedented access to sexual content. And unlike in any other time in history with technology, you've grown up with an unprecedented access to it. And today, if you don't conform to the individualist view, you're labeled as a prude, or you're labeled as like, oh, that's cute. Or worse, you're called names. And you're said, and you're called, you have put downs labeled to you, because you won't conform to society's viewpoint on sex. And so just like last week, we talked about the idea of, well, who's to blame for young people walking away in this area? Is it the church's fault, or is it the individual's fault? And you're going to see a common theme here. I think it's both. And when we say the church, again, I'm not referring to specifically ABC Church, although I don't think that ABC Church has been immune from these problems. In ministry, we all make mistakes. And so sometimes in the way that we've communicated things, we might have blown it too, in all honesty. But I'm talking about the Big C Church. Historically, here's the way the Big C Church has communicated sex to students. We have a weird cross between the traditionalist view and the individualist view. And what I mean by that is we go up to students and we go, sex is dirty and it's wrong and it's awful and you shouldn't talk about it until you get married. And then sex is going to blow your mind. Woo! It's going to be the greatest thing ever. Just wait. Just abstain, because once you've got your husband around, woohoo! It's going to be great. And that's the way that the church has predominantly talked to you about sex, and that's wrong. It's wrong. Because sex needs to be talked about and addressed, because when we bury it as it's some secret sin, then we fall slaves to it. And if we, the thing is that this weird kind of individualist mix to it, notice what I said about marriage in the way that it's been communicated before. No one ever tells students that marriage is exceptionally difficult. I love my wife. The staff members in here that are married love their spouses. But they would be the first to tell you, as would I, that marriage is hard. And people that are married don't understand that good sex just doesn't happen in a vacuum. Like you can treat your wife like garbage all day and then all of a sudden, well, this is going to be great and mind-blowing. And we have these unrealistic expectations built in our minds about what's going to happen when we get married. And that's wrong of the church to do that. And at the same token, it's wrong of the church to kind of sweep sex under the rug like it isn't something we should talk about. Because sex is the number one thing talked about in the Bible besides one other thing. You want to know what it is? Money. The Bible talks about sex and money more than any other topic. You know what the church tends to talk about least? Sex and money. Why? Because those are hard topics to talk about, right? Those are uncomfortable topics to talk about. And what I've really appreciated about ABC Church is that ABC Church never shies away from talking about those things. I have never known Pastor Tom, in all the years I've known him, to be shy about talking about these issues. And he teaches the staff to do the same. And so at ABC, we want to know you to know that we're doing our best to correct this from the church's standpoint and be a place where we can talk about these issues openly and honestly. Because if you want to stay in your faith, walking with Jesus past high school, you have to have the church be a place where you can talk about real things like homosexuality. You can talk about abortion and reproductive rights and ask your hard questions. You can talk about gender identity, sexual orientation. You can talk about pornography. You can talk about marriage and chastity and fidelity. And you can bring these topics to us, because if you can't, then you're going to walk away. Now, of course, there's a flip side of this. There could be that there's the fault of the individual. Because we say things, well, the church is restricting my freedom. And what I want to push back on you tonight is maybe some of us have the wrong idea of what freedom is. Here's what the Bible says is freedom. Galatians 5:1, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Don't be slaves to the sin in your life. And the Bible's very clear on sexual sin and the fact that it can enslave us. So many people have taken this verse and we said, oh, we got freedom from sin. And they take that verse and they say, well, now I got freedom to sin. And they use this as kind of a cheap grace to go around and to satisfy their desires and indulge themselves and to say, well, I'm still going to church once in a while. God's got my back. He's got me covered. I sang a few songs at Hume Lake once. And so because of that, I can do whatever I want now. And we misread the context of this verse, because if we look at another verse that Paul shared in Romans 6:1-2 says, what shall we say then? Shall we go on sinning so that grace may increase? By no means. We died to sin. How can we continue to live in it any longer? So we have freedom from sin. So many young people today, you go after the things of this world only to find out that the things of this world are actually what enslaves you. And one sin that just continually comes up in the church over and over and over again that students go back to time and time and time again and feel like they can't drag themselves out of is pornography. And I want to share a quote with you from the U.S. Department of Justice. It says, never before in the history of telecommunications media in the U.S. has so much indecent and obscene material been so easily accessible by so many minors in so many American homes with so few restrictions. So we've got freedom. We can do whatever we want with that freedom. We can watch whatever we want with that freedom. And we say that the church, when they tell us not to look at porn, that's restricting our freedom. And when Kenneman and these guys did their surveys, what they found out is the young people watch a lot of porn. A lot. And people in general watch a lot of porn. This is from a Business Insider's. This is not a Christian source. This is the New York Business Insider's list of the top 5 terms searched in 2017. By far, the number one thing searched in 2017 was something, I think we have a slide of that as well, but we have adult content is by far the number one Google search in 2017. Do you see the difference between adult content, pornography, so keywords like porn, naked, nude, sex, and references, celebrities, shopping, and lottery? It's millions of Google searches away from anything else on the internet. A couple other quick statistics for you. 9 out of 10 boys are exposed to pornography before the age of 18. That means statistics show that 9 out of 10 of you boys in the room have watched porn. 68% of young adult men and 18% of young adult women use porn at least once a week. 50% of all Christian men and 20% of Christian women surveyed, of these thousands of 18 to 29-year-olds surveyed, said they are addicted to porn. Christians. 50% men, 20% women. Here, a couple more quotes for you. Dr. Patrick Fagan, he's the director of the Marriage Research Institute. Adolescents who view pornography, by and large, feel shame, diminished self-confidence, and sexual uncertainty. Dale Coonley says, if you get connected with porn early in life, it alters your ability to relate. Michelle Ibarra, she's the president of the Internet Solutions for Kids. A significant relationship exists between frequent pornography use and feelings of loneliness, including major depression in adolescents. Mary Ann Layden, psychologists have for a number of years called internet pornography the new cocaine. Personally, I think it's an understatement. I think it is actually damaging us as a society and as individuals in a much greater way than cocaine is in fact damaging us. This is the director for cognitive therapy at the University of Pennsylvania, Brain Research Institute, what porn does to the brain. Studies have been done of porn and its human effects on the brain. I want to show you just a quick video that illustrates this.
Recently, a supercomputer managed to do what no computer had ever done: simulate 1 whole second of human brain activity. How long did it take the computer to accomplish the task? 40 minutes. That might seem like a long time if, like most of us, 1 second of brain activity amounts to something like, "I want a sandwich." But your brain transmits more messages than all the phone calls across the world, sifting through a non-stop flow of input from the eyes, ears, and other senses, even if you're just making a sandwich. Consider the brain. 50 billion neurons, a trillion glial cells, 4 miles of blood vessels, all dedicated to making an enjoyable life possible for you. Need food, shelter, and sleep? Your brain is designed to go after whatever it takes to survive. Your brain is also wired for companionship, with neurochemicals released in response to intimacy. Even if you're alone, staring at pornographic images on a screen. In that moment, the brain's powerful machinery kicks into gear, bonding us in different ways to images on the screen. Studies show that over time, many can develop a compulsion to pornography, causing them to need more of it, more often, and more hardcore versions just to feel normal. Just like with mood-altering drugs. The amazing brain, in other words, can be hijacked. Image after image, your expectations of sex, love, and relationships can evolve, with your own sexual preferences changing dramatically as you continue to seek out more shocking content. No surprise, then, that in comparison, people and activities you used to really care about seem less interesting. The good news is that the same processes that shape the brain in one direction can shape it in another. Hundreds of research studies prove that brain pathways can move in healthier directions. That's true for all of us, and there are lots of ways to help that happen. The only question that remains is what pathways you'll choose for yourself. So choose reality. Choose love. You were born with a machine in your head more powerful than the world's fastest computer, your brain. Take care of it. It was made to take care of you.
Okay, so with that video, and you see that this is the effects of scientific research on the effects of pornography on the brain. From all of that, it doesn't sound very freeing to me. The idea, the irony of us thinking we want our sexual freedom, and it actually creates us and binds us into more slavery than we could have possibly imagined. And if you're in the room and you're not struggling with pornography, I want to remind us that this is an issue that affects every one of us in this room, men and women. And while there are some women that struggle with pornography, the issue is primarily male. But girls, this issue affects you in so many ways, because the boys that you're hanging out with at school, flirting with, dating, eventually marrying, a lot of their brains are hardwired towards these images. Guys, if you're viewing pornography and you think it's a harmless thing, it's not. It's actually destroying your ability to relate and feel and connect with another human being. There's this quote from Matt Fradd, and I want to share it with you because I think that in this Google search to become more free, we find ourselves just enslaving ourselves. And one more quote on pornography, it just this quote devastates me. In the heart of every man is a desire to be brave, to be good, and to protect. In the heart of every woman is a desire to be beautiful, to be desired, to be the treasure. Pornography taps into those good desires but delivers the opposite. Porn turns protectors into predators and treasures into targets. It's a great disappointment which, like all sin, eventually leaves the users bored, and lonely. I don't know if you've ever thought of pornography in that way. Guys that think it's harmless, it's just images on a screen, I'm not hurting anyone. It turns you into a predator. Girls, pornography turns you into targets. It turns you into an object. And you deserve to be treasured. You really do. And I don't want you to buy into the lie that porn is no big deal. I don't want you to buy into this lie because I don't want you to think that your porn problem will be fixed when you're having sex. That's not the way it works. Studies have shown that too. Porn isn't love. It's not. And it's certainly not freedom. And in this, we want you guys to understand that maybe when God said all those years ago that sex should be confined in the idea of marriage with one man and one woman, just maybe he might have been onto something. And the idea that as much as we try to create this freedom for ourselves, it ultimately just sidetracks us. I want to bring up someone just to share a couple minutes tonight. You guys have seen him on stage quite a bit, and we're going to bring up a few guests during the course of this series, but he wants to share just a little bit on his heart from this topic. And so would you welcome my friend Jack to the stage as he shares for just a minute here.
Thanks, Zack. Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Zack, thank you for asking me to do this. This is quite the first chat you have at HSM, right? Guys, this is a real thing, and I'll hop right into it. But I just wanted this to be a great opportunity for you to get to know me a little bit better, more than just dude with the guitar on Tuesday, Wednesdays. I'm a young person too, and what we're talking about I've seen it very close in my life, and I've seen what it does to the soul and to relationships around you. So I just wanted to quickly just kind of chat about my journey in growing up in church. I've been a Christian my whole life. I'm gonna sit down. This is nice. Okay. So what I'm gonna kind of base these next couple minutes around, all of it is questions. Guys, I am such a question-filled person. I think I always will be. I'm always asking questions. I always want to go deeper, and I always want to just learn. I love learning. And I am that kid growing up who was under the impression that there are questions that I can't ask the church because of what they will say to me, how they're going to treat me. If I ask a question about this topic or this topic, about sex, about pornography, about whatever, that I already know in my mind, okay, well, he's going to tell me, no, you're wrong, you're bad, you're this, you need to go do this. So I would do the natural thing, and I would go to other people in my life who, truthfully, if I'm being honest with myself and with you guys, I already knew what they were going to say, and I knew that their answer was an answer that I wanted to hear. And for me, that was my water polo team. I played water polo all through childhood, through high school. And I was exposed to porn like a lot of people. I was on a bus, with my team going to a game, and, where is it? You guys all know what one of these are, a smartphone, right? Relatively new in our world. Every year that goes by, though, our youth, we're more attached to them. I was born in 1995. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a smartphone until I was 17. But like my little sister, she's had a smartphone her whole life. And, a lot of you guys have too. I'm 22, by the way. I'm not like 85. But I'm in that very small niche that started in kind of the very end of the analog age and then transferred. As you guys know, we're 500% digital now. So, like I said, that was my first exposure to it, passing around a smartphone, and it was so shocking and so terrifying, truthfully. I was, raised in an environment where sex wasn't really talked about, I didn't really know anything about porn other than it's really bad, don't watch it. But when I saw it, I remember the actual physical response I had to it and how gut-wrenching it was. And I didn't even know what I was looking at, truthfully. That started just kind of this insane domino effect, crazy journey for me of figuring out really what even is sex. Like, is it really just making babies and making humanity into the next generation? No, it's actually so much more than that. And God tells us that, but also the world tells us that. And they're two very, very different things. Like I said, going back to the questions thing, great example. I was singing of it when we were just doing worship. We sang How He Loves, and there's that line, and it says, sloppy wet kiss. Guys, I've been singing that song in church since I was like in middle school, and I was always just like, what does that even mean? Like, what the heck? But I was like, I can't even ask that question. You know, like, this is a worship song and everybody loves it. And it is. It's an amazing song. I didn't ask that question to anybody until I was like 19 years old. I sang that song for like 7 or 8 years before I actually kind of went to people about it. What Zack was saying, which is really, really important and that I really want to speak on, is, like I mentioned a second ago, right? The church, you have issues, you have questions, and you kind of think in your mind, this is what they are going to say to me. They are going to condemn me. Therefore, I'm not going to say anything. And guys, truthfully, yeah, sometimes the church does fall short, and they're not going to process through everything with you perfectly. I'm not here to say, as someone who volunteers at church, that church is perfect. That any church is perfect. If you walk into a church and you want to be perfect, you're going to be really, really disappointed. It's full of people, and we're all broken, and we all fall short. But on the other end of that, it's all right. I wasn't meeting church halfway. I actually never was asking the questions, and I want to really challenge you guys with that. And I want to tell you now, going through middle school and high school, if I would have been able to approach these leaders in my life, these young leaders who honestly believed in me in times of my life where I didn't believe in myself, and I hope, and I know that a lot of you guys in here, you've seen that. You've been in a season where your hub group leader or Zack or whoever in this room has really, really just invested into you. That was me growing up, and I'm really thankful that I had that. But at my home church, like I said, it was kind of just like, don't talk about it, whatever. How am I doing on time? Cool. I have like a little kind of line, and I really want you guys to think about this. Sex was created, sin was crafted. And I'm specifically talking about sexual sin here. Guys, God created sex to be the most intimate, most perfect, and holy thing two humans could join together and share. And the world has, through pornography, through just media, everything has shown us the exact opposite, that it is casual, that it is just a natural thing for us scientifically to be sexual beings. And truthfully, I do think we are sexual beings. I'm not going to sit here and say that we're not, but we were created by a God who wants us to steward that sexuality in a pure way. And I think this digital age has really created a separation in that. Brett Kunkel, remember he spoke at Awaken. Guy's a legend, right? A couple weeks before Awaken, our church leadership program, we went through his book, Practical Guide to Culture, and it was such a confronting book, but it was so good. And there was an entire chapter on pornography, and at the very end, the book, it kind of has like these questions that you go over and you ask yourself. And one of the things that it said in this book, and it's kind of more towards parents, right, more than anyone, the book, but it totally relates to anybody. But it said specifically as a parent, today it said, hey, instead of trying to keep your kids away from pornography, you actually need to just prepare on how to talk to them because they will see it. That is the sad truth, and every single day it becomes more true. As we are continuing just social media and YouTube and Netflix and everything. It's just, we have so much media coming into us all the time, and we have so many voices coming from every direction. And I want you guys to kind of, when I say prepare for it with your friends or for yourself. Wherever you're at with that, it will come up. And being a good Christian doesn't mean just turning, around and just avoiding it, because that will not work. I've tried that. It does not work. Let's see what else. Yeah, sexual sin. That's a really, 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 really tough subject, and I'm not going to really go deep into it. Whether you believe in God or not, that's so besides the point of what I'm trying to say to you right now. But I am so sure that God is the one behind sex. For so many amazing reasons, but also when it comes to sexual abuse and sexual sin. I mean, you can get punched in the face. I've heard this before. You can get punched in the face and you're going to get a bloody nose. You're going to get a black eye maybe, and you're going to look funny for a couple days, but your body will heal itself. When you're sexually abused, you remember that for the rest of your life. And that's not something, that you can just wish away. That's actually something that's now a part of you. And we all know the statistics. I wouldn't be shocked, if there was someone, if not multiple people in here who have had that horrifying reality that you've been a part of abuse. I completely understand that, and I'm there with you. I'm just trying to kind of hit points and let you guys know, I'm actually begging you, as Jack Maurer, not worship guy, not as youth pastor guy, just as Jack, I'm begging you to ask me about it. I'm literally begging you, every single one of you. If you have any question, please talk to me. Please talk to your hub group leader. Ladies, talk to Sam, talk to Dawn, any of these amazing women here. They actually want to process it with you, and they don't want to punish you wherever you think you are, whether you feel like you're so in bondage in it. Maybe you have someone really close to you who is. They want to talk and process through you with it. I want to talk and process through you with it. Last thing, the whole freedom thing and wait before you're married and all this other stuff. You guys will notice it's overnight, I swear. The second you graduate high school, everyone is in your ear to get married, and it's just calm down, please. But I will say I have had a lot of friends who have been getting married since I graduated back in 2014. It just seems like clockwork, and I have all these friends who are now married, and I promise you guys, I'm not lying to you. Every single one of my friends who did wait till they were married, they told me, they said, hey, none of them said, I wish I wouldn't have waited. Not one person told me that. And like Zack said, love is so beautiful, and it really is. It can be so careless and awesome and fuzzy feeling, but marriage is so difficult. I'm not married, but I have a lot of married friends. I talk to my parents about it constantly. My parents have an amazing story of their marriage. They've been married for 27 years now. Crazy all the way through it, but they've stuck with each other because they love each other, not because it's easy, but because they love each other, and they know that God loves marriage. He treasures it. It's more than love. God literally treasures it, and he treasures you guys. That's how I'm just going to wrap this up. He literally treasures us in every single sphere of us, the really great parts that we're really good at and the parts that we're not so good at. The world hasn't really helped us with pornography and with our sexual sin. It's being fed to us every single second of our day. You guys know, Instagram, it's amazing. Who here has Instagram really quick? Just raise your hand. Yeah, I'm pretty much every single person in this room. You go on the Explorer page. You don't need to go to a porn website. You guys know, I'm talking, we're eye to eye here, It's not like it's hard to find. You don't need to stumble upon it. It's there whenever you want. The smartphone, like I said, it takes 3 seconds. No one would ever know. Like Zack said, oh, well, maybe because I'm by myself, yeah, I can just come back in to society, into reality after I have my moment. I know that's not good. I'm going to try not to do it again, but now I'm back. Actually, that's not how it works. It literally does rewire your brain. When you're born, God creates you specifically. Every single thing is in line. Not a single hair is out of line. It's perfect the way you were created. Now, when we view these things, it literally is ripping wires out of your brain and putting them in different places. So now, it doesn't matter if you're locked inside your room in the dark by yourself, no one's home, or you're in a group of people like this. That is how you operate now. And truthfully, and it really does suck to say, I know this from experience, but I'm also so excited to say this in freedom, is I have experienced that. I have been so locked into that addiction of pornography. And it, more than anything, it just destroyed how I even talk to people. Like, I mean, you don't want to be social because the way that God created people to be in community, it doesn't line up with what you're watching. It's actually a crafted image. You're not watching sex, you're watching something that was it was crafted, right? It's like a movie is it's not real life, it was crafted. It was made, you know? Porn is the exact same thing. It's not reality, but as you're watching it, complete nature takes over and says, oh, this is natural. And for a lot of us, as we creep into this digital age, that's your first ever experience and introduction to anything sexual. You haven't even had a conversation with your parents or with a leader. The first thing you see is some graphic image on the internet. That's burned there forever. So I just wanted to kind of be here, let you guys know a little bit more about me. If I can say anything before I give it back to Zack, guys, please just talk to us. We're so open. We want to smash this. We don't want this to be a reoccurring thing for generations and generations. The digital age is a new thing, and I think it was created for a beautiful purpose, and we kind of just got a little crazy with it. But I really believe that if we're all in this together, that we can really turn things around. So yeah, please, just come talk to us, guys. That's it. Yeah, thank you.
So, look, here's the thing. We're obviously going a little bit longer tonight. We had some discussions in table groups. We are going to go to hubs. Our leaders are prepared to stay and talk a little bit tonight because it will be a little shorter hubs. You're more than welcome to text your parents if you're someone who gets a ride and just say, hey, would you mind picking me up a little bit late tonight? If this is something you're going to want to process through. I know some of you guys drive, so you don't have to worry about that, but we just want to make sure that you know that we're not going anywhere. I'm going to wrap up here in a couple minutes. I have a couple last things to say, and then the band's going to come up and play one more song, and then we'll go to hubs. So I'm gonna hold off on one of these things actually, and we'll save it for another talk. But something I want to share with you is that I've seen so many students in high school over the years. I've been involved in student ministries now for 8 years in some capacity here at ABC, whether it's volunteer or the pastor. I've been involved in the middle school for years, and I've worked with students, even back running a basketball league 10 years ago. And I've watched so many students have this burning passion for Jesus, this desire to follow him, and even to do some big things for God after high school. And I've watched them get derailed over and over and over again because they wanted to pursue their own indulgences and desires over Jesus. And what I will tell you is, if you're going to choose the freedoms of this world, which actually really enslave us, you will walk away from your faith. It's a guarantee. If you're going to choose those indulgences and continually push God to the side or pretend like you got to live this double life, you're going to walk away. And as the band comes back up to play one last song tonight, I just want to leave you with this. We took a heavy topic tonight, I understand. And we just hit the tip of the iceberg. I mean, there were a lot of things with sexual sin we could have addressed tonight. And some of you might be wondering, well, what does the Bible say about pornography? The internet wasn't around back then. There was no video back then. Ask your hub leader, ask us. Because the Bible is actually really clear on sexual immorality and pornography as we start looking at the Bible and what God calls us to. It really does fall under that. But there's a lot of other sexual sin that some of you may really be struggling with or wondering or asking questions about. And I know we only talked about one topic tonight. We wanted to extensively look at one. But if you're struggling with some others, please talk to us. As Jack just stressed over and over, I mean, that's the number one thing. We're here for you. We really are. And sometimes people think, well, we're going to be judged. You saw the 21% thing. I'm going to be judged because of what I've done. No, you're not. You just watched a worship pastor come up here and bare his soul to you, share some sin that he struggled with and beat and actually got out of years ago. And you guys can do the same. What I don't want you to hear tonight is, well, I've screwed up and I've had sexual sin, whether it's pornography or with another person, and now my life is ruined and I can't follow Jesus. That's not it at all. Because if we read the Bible, we see broken person after broken person after broken person be rescued and redeemed by the power of Jesus in the gospel. That's what Jesus does for us. Is he says to you that you are no longer a slave to your desires, and you actually can walk in freedom. And our prayer and hope for you at HSM that you'll walk in freedom. Guys, our prayer for you is that you will completely disregard the freedoms that this world has to offer. Whether it's through pornography or casual hookups, the hookup culture, the party scene, just trying to turn girls into objects, because what you're really doing is being a predator. Girls in this room, my prayer for you is that you'll start viewing yourselves as the treasures that you are. Because you are. And you deserve to be treated and loved like that and not be used for your body. And our prayer for all of us as we grapple with this big issue that, again, is talked about in the Bible more than any other topic except for money. We want to wrestle with the issue of sex and sexuality because the Bible wrestles with this issue. And we want to be a place that you can do that. And so we're going to sing this song, Head to Hub groups. Remember that once these guys are done singing, you guys can head to hubs. If you are going to stay and talk through 805, I promise to be like 1 minute, crazy brief. We want you guys to have some time to dialogue. And again, we'll stay for you as long as you need. So I'm just going to pray for us. Just a blessing over us, and if you could just extend your hands out like this, and this is just a symbol that you're willing to receive a blessing from God, that we're not going to hold anything back from him tonight, and be people who follow God honorably. Father, would you look at your children who love you? God, as we wrestle with these incredibly difficult topics, sex, sexuality, purity, chastity, fidelity, pornography. We know that there's darkness in this world, God. We know that sometimes the things that look enticing to us will actually just trap us and enslave us. God, I pray for the people in this room that are struggling with sexual sin, that you would allow them to be vulnerable tonight and honest and open. Would you allow them to actually bring sin to light so that it can be extinguished? Would you allow us to remember that we aren't called to be slaves to our sin anymore, but that we are your children. And because we are your children, God, you love us. You love us despite every evil thing we've done, every evil thought we've had. God, you took care of it. You paid for it. Would we remember the sacrifice that you made? Remember that you have called us into redemption. Would we give ourselves grace? But not grace so that we can keep on sinning. Grace that we may sin no more. And as we strive to sin no more and maybe continue to make mistakes and continue to fall back into old patterns, would you remind us time and time and time again that your grace is enough? Jesus, you're good and you're holy. Would you teach us to be good and holy like you? Would you allow us to walk the way you walked and allow us to be there for each other as we continue to struggle through the way this world is? Would you give us peace? Amen.